Hey guys, Jen Engel here with the time to stamp video for Viva Las Vegas Stamps. I'm going to be working on an art journal page today, a two-page spread, a rare two-page spread. So I'm starting out with some texture paste, White Crackle by Prima, and I'm working in my altered book. It's a vintage math book. And I have a couple of the pages glued together to make them more sturdy. And then I also have a layer of gesso on the page. My book got like overspray and stuff from other pages on it, some like blue kind of tones. So I'm just trying to cover that up. And instead of using gesso, I thought I'd use the crackle paste. Now I'm applying it with a paintbrush. And I'm also going to dry it with my heat tool so I don't really get that many cracks. And I wasn't really expecting to. It was just a different kind of texture than regular gesso. So yeah, I'm going to dry that with my heat gun, and then I'm going to take this clock face stamp by Viva Las Vegas Stamps and my Distress Spray Stain and Paint in Mermaid Lagoon. And I'm first going to start out with the paint, and I'm going to put a little bit out on my craft sheet, and I started to put a little bit on the clock, but this stamp has a lot of like open space, and I didn't want the paint to like seep in all those open spaces of like the Roman numerals and stuff. So I'm just going to use a little makeup sponge to apply the color onto my stamp, and then I'm just going to give it a quick spritz with my water bottle and stamp it all over my page. And you don't get a crisp image with this kind of technique, but that's what I'm going for. I want real distressed and like spotty looking. And I'm just going to stamp that all over my page until I'm happy with it. And then I'm going to spray my stamp really good with water and put it off to the side so that paint doesn't stay stuck and ruin my stamp. And then I'm going to spray my pages a little bit with water, and then the extra paint that's on my craft sheet, I'm just going to take a paintbrush and really loosely go around my page, and then I'm going to dry that as well. So I have a piece of acetate that I put some of the stain onto, and I was doing some stamping with this large star chart stamp, and it's got a lot of detail in it. So the stamping really didn't work. This stamping with ink or liquidy kind of media works better when you have a lot of surface, not a lot of detail, because it just turned out looking like spots. I could have just as easily stuck down the acetate and gotten the same result. You cannot at all tell what it is. So to get a little variation in tone, I'm just taking my Stabilo Marxol and scribbling it a little around the center of my page, and using my paintbrush to move it around with water just a little bit. And then I'm going to take that same star chart stamp and stamp it with my watering can archival ink, which my ink pad is very, very dry right now, so I get a very light look. And I'm not stamping the entire thing, I'm just stamping like little sections of it, but it's like astrological symbols and this and that. So the detail is really cool up close when you stamp it like that, not whole. So I wanted to do a little bit of embossing around the background of my page. So I went over I made sure the whole thing was very, very dry. And then I went over the whole thing with an anti-static powder bag tool thing, which I heard is just baby powder. So I don't know. We'll have to try baby powder one day and see if that works. So I'm going to stamp around with the Let's Get Lost stamp by Viva Las Vegas Stamps and some sticky ink. And then I'm going to just sprinkle fine detail embossing powder all over that. And I do get some of the embossing powder stuck where I don't want it. So I'm just going to take my paintbrush and kind of brush some of that away. And I'm not really too concerned with it being perfect or getting all of that off, because it is just background texture and it's not that serious if my stamping isn't perfect or if embossing powder gets where I don't want it. And then I'm just going to heat that with my heat tool, but I have to be careful because this is very thin vintage paper, and if I hold it too long in one spot, it makes the pages kind of like bubble out, which I do not want. So I have to keep my heat tool moving. And then I just do a second application of my stamping and embossing powder to get more of that. So for my focal image, I'm going to stamp out on acetate this bird cage. And I'm going to put that to the side and work a little bit more on my background. So I have some Wild Honey Distress Stain. I wanted a little more color in the background, so I'm just going to use the nozzle to get some splatters here and there on my page. And then I'm also going to take Peony Blush ink spray by Dilutions and apply that all over with the nozzle as well. So then I'm going to take the Circle Stencil by Tim Holtz and some of that same crackle paste we used in the background and apply that right over top of all the work we just did. You can still see it though. The reason why I chose a stencil like this with a lot of open space is because I did want to kind of tone down the background. There is a lot going on back there with the stamping and the embossing. And the same as the background, I'm going to dry it with my heat tool so I don't get a ton of cracks, but I'm not too concerned with that. You know, some cracks is cool, but I'm not too worried about it. And I'm just going to concentrate that in the middle of my pages. And you can see how it didn't really help that much to kind of tone things down. But again, it's just texture and layers and the fun stuff that we all love, right? So I'm going to take a little bit of gesso. It was looking a little crazy to me. So I'm going to take a little gesso, bring it in from my edges down towards the center to kind of white out some of that space around the edges of my book. Now, the stain is water reactive, so the gesso is going to kind of smear that around, but I don't care. I think it looks kind of cool. In the end, it adds a little extra color and variation of intensity of color, which I'm cool with. So then I'm going to take some pomegranate silks acrylic glaze and just kind of like apply a little bit of a blob on each page. With a dry paintbrush, so you can kind of see like the paintbrush strokes. And then I'm going to work on my focal image. So I have two pieces of canvas. I have, or not canvas, just like thin white fabric. And then I have some medical gauze from the medical kit. If you get injured at my house, come to the craft room, not the medicine cabinet, because you will not get help in the medicine cabinet. You'll find everything first aid in the craft room. So then I'm also gonna put some drywall tape down. I have a circle of like jewelry wire, very, very thin jewelry wire that I twisted into a circle. And I have my acetate birdcage there, some like branchy things from Tim Holtz. It's a Tim Holtz die that has like all kinds of like branches and stuff on it. And I'm gonna apply a little bit of gesso to the circle drywall tape because it has a little bit of like an off-white color that I don't want. I want it to be white. So I'm just trying to take my gesso and trying to white out just the drywall tape. It does get on other stuff, but I'm trying my best to keep it just on the drywall tape. And then I'm gonna lay down my stuff and add a glob of matte medium. This is the Dina Wakley matte medium, or I guess it's called gel medium, and apply some of that in the center to stick everything down. And then I'm going to take my Tim Holtz tiny attacher to attach that metal piece. It doesn't get all the way around, so I just kind of staple it on the right side, which is fine. It's going to stay put once I put everything down anyway. And I'm also going to stick down my branch. And then I have these like little medallions that I made out of paper clay and like a mold. And they're just like little circles with kind of like a little bit of detail. So I'm just going to stick those down with some gel medium. And I'm going to take this Recollections embossing powder. It's like a mint color with sparkles. I was looking for a name, but I couldn't find one. It's just mint with like sparkles. So I apply a little bit of gel medium to the top of those medallions and then just sprinkle a little bit of that embossing powder just with my fingers. And then I also sprinkle it around the page just a little bit. And then I heat set that with my heat tool. And then I'm going to apply a little bit up there in the right too and melt that with my heat tool. And then I'm going to get out some of these, the little ones are called Sparkling Clear Droplets by Cat Scrappiness. and the bigger ones are by Prima, and I think the label says Melange, I think. Yeah, so they're just like clear pieces. They don't add a lot, but it's like a little subtle something in the background. And then I'm going to take some gel medium and mix it with my Prima art stones. I have of the small, medium, and large. I'm going to use the small and medium, and then I'm just going to use my paintbrush to apply that mixture of gel medium and art stones here and there around my page. And then I'm going to sprinkle on some Recollections brand, what are they called? Little glass beads. And then I decided that I wanted that bird cage on the other side of the page. So then I'm going to mix some of those glass beads with some gel medium. Now, I could have just used my glass bead gel by Golden, but this was out on the desk, so I'm just going to mix that little mixture together and apply that here and there around my page, and the gel medium will dry and you'll just see those little, what are they called? They're not called glass beads, they're called something else. So anyway, I can't remember. I'm going to apply a little bit of glue to like the darkest sections of my acetate so that you can't see the glue that well. You can see it a little bit when you look close up, but as long as I use just a little bit and try to keep it behind some of those darker, more solid areas, it should be fine. And then I'm going to also apply some more of those branches. And then I'm going to apply some of those art stones to the left side of my page. For this side, I'm just putting down my gel medium and then I'm sprinkling the stones into the gel medium instead of mixing it in all together. It gives you a little bit of a different look. And then I'm also going to sprinkle a couple around the right side of the page as well. Oh, sorry guys. And then I have these birds by Cap Kerr that are going to go on the right side. And my right side has a lot less color than the left. I'm going to mix a little bit of that pomegranate silks with water to get some splatters going. And then I'm also going to add some touches here and there with the watery mixture on the right side so it gets a little bit more color, because right now it has a lot less color. In the end, after I turned off my camera, I added a lot more color to the pages over the art stones. I really like the way they look natural, and I wish I would have left it alone, but you know, I just couldn't help myself. So you'll see in the still shots what I mean. So I'm going to take my favorite black splatters, which is Black India ink, and just splatter some of that around the page, and then I'm going to apply my birds with some multimedia matte. And then I have a phrase sticker by 7 Dot Studio. It says spread your wings. And it is sticky, but there's a lot of texture there, so I'm going to use my multimedia matte to apply that as well to make sure it stays put. I'm going to add some more sparkling clear sequins and those bigger pieces. And that is it for my page. So you see there in the still shot how the right side has a lot more color, and on the left side it does too. So all I did to add more color was I added a watery mixture of that pomegranate, and then I also used the Wild Honey Distress stain. You can really see it in the middle of this photo here. I just used my paintbrush and added dots here and there, and on this page I added it on top of the art stones. Like I said, I kind of wish that I had left it more of that natural stone color. I do like the right side with all the color, but it did make a pretty big difference in like the tone of the page, you know what I mean, with the color. All in all, a lot of cool details, which is my favorite part. So thank you so much for watching. All the supplies and stamps I used are listed and linked in the blog post. If you're watching from the blog. It's up above or down below if you're watching from YouTube. There is a link in the description box to the blog post, which has the links to all the stamps I used by Viva Las Vegas Stamps. And thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye bye, guys.